Today on the channel, we're going to take a look at this little K5 Chevy Blazer from FMS right after this. Now this little 1/24 RC Chevy Blazer is fantastic. It's basically any RC enthusiast dream. This thing looks awesome. It is, of course, four-wheel drive, rock crawler, with a little brushed motor in here, but it looks just amazing. It is officially licensed from Chevy to be able to be used by FMS, so it's not like some cheap knockoff. It's actually licensed by Chevy, and it's just, the detail is amazing on this. Now, they do say you can take off the rear, the cap or top all here, take this off, but mine doesn't seem to come off because you could take it off and actually put like these lights on here. You could install, and it kind of shows you on the box, so I'll show you here in just a second. So as you can see, of course, this looks a lot like mine right here, but you can see where they've taken it off there, but mine just seems all molded in one. So I don't know if they just changed that from the early first run of this or whatnot, because you can see sort of this looks like mine especially, but again, mine seems all molded into one. I cannot get it to pull off the top. Now they do make this in 3 different colors, a black, and then the orange and the brown, which I have the brown. Really hard time debating which one that I wanted. Aliexpress was kind enough to let me pick out a few things to review, and this is one of the things that I wanted to review because I've seen this for a while. It's been out for over a year, and I really wanted to take a look at this. So I know I'm not one of the first to review it, but hopefully a few of you guys maybe want to check this out, especially if you haven't seen this little truck before. It has a 2-speed transmission in it. There's a high and a low speed. And the low is going to be really good for rock crawling, but it moves along pretty good in the higher rate. Now it does have some headlights here on the front, and these headlights look fantastic, especially when driving in low light or dark. So just be careful when you take off the body. It's all wired in. This is a very small little 2-wire plug in there, and if you put a lot of stress on it and pull around and let the body's weight kind of hang, you can end up pulling those wires out, which I did, and I had to repair it, which I'll show you here in a minute, because you really want these lights to work in this little truck. Now, they give you a pretty nice little controller. It looks like it might be cheap, but this is really well built with a nice foam grip on the wheel. You have a bind and reverse button in here. We have our trims for our steering dual rates and our throttle, and then our on and off switch here. And then on the side, you have the channel 3. Now, this is a 3-way switch. All the way to the left is your lowest rate, all the way to the right is your high rate. In the middle, you can still steer, but the motor will spin up, but it doesn't actually do anything. It's kind of like a neutral. You can hear it spin, but the car doesn't actually go. It's actually, like I said, switching inside there to that transmission between the low and the high rate. Now there's a little LiPo battery in here. I'll show you when I actually have it in the car right now. I'll show you in there. It's a 2S LiPo. And you can charge it off of the balance plug. If you have like a micro low-C connector, which it uses, you could use it on a hobby grade. But this one works just fine for charging that little LiPo battery up. It's of course USB. And then you've got a 4-way wheel wrench. I showed you the lights you can put on here. Again, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but this really feels like it's all molded together and doesn't, when I've seen other videos, it just pops off. And this feels like mine is not like this. So I don't know exactly how you to put these on this, because it's meant to go here in the rear of the truck inside the bed, and this doesn't come off. Now, they also use some stickers if you want to change your license plates. This comes with Texas stickers. They got some Tennessee, South Dakota, and Missouri. I'm close to Missouri, so that's something I might consider, though I actually do live in Illinois, not Missouri. So we'll take a look underneath here and actually show you those electronics and stuff inside of here. But that's pretty much it in terms of the accessories that come with this. Now, some of the videos I've seen, I've only checked out a few just to see if there's any differences in this since it's been out a while, is the shocks, you could add some little O-rings in there, and they add oil, which would make a big difference. So I don't have, mine doesn't come with those O-rings that I can see in this little bag. So either you have to buy those and do it yourself, because I can't imagine they would switch the shocks, because adding oil to these would make a big difference. But without the O-rings, the shocks would leak all the oil right out. So you do need to make sure you get those. So today I'll be just running this just with the regular friction shock setup. Now the easiest way to actually take this body off, I find, is just kind of putting it upside down. Then you can kind of press in on these little tabs and then pull the actual chassis up from the shell. That's the easiest way. Now, like I said, there is those wires attached in here. You can see here, and I'll show you in a minute. Like I said, I'll close up and show you because there's an easy way to put a lot of stress on that. All right, so you can see it. I kind of put it on its side there, so it puts a little less stress on this. But here's actually what happened. This little plug, I noticed the headlights were flashing around and they didn't want to come on, and then it looked like they were just kind of flickering because this wire was just about broken. I think it's what the red wire here was, the positive. It had just, I mean, I barely used it, and it had busted off. So I feel like this is going to be a common problem. It could have been from putting too much stress on it, because I don't know what else I would have done. But it's also possible it was just not done well at the factory. But I had a plug like this that I actually kind of spliced in using these little shrink wrap things, a little metal piece that shrinks in, and it constricts and it holds the wires and it makes contact on both sides. But these wires are so small that I'm just so relieved that I actually worked, because I didn't know what I was going to do. Trying to solder that would have been a real pain in the behind. Anyway, beside that, you've got your 2S LiPo in here, which I'm going to show you now. It has a rubber strap that you actually have to undo here, which I'll try to do with one hand. Now I knocked the body over. And here is that little, I think it was 350? Yeah, 380 milliamp hour. 380 milliamp hour, 5C 2S LiPo. Very, very small. And of course that charges off the USB, and there is that micro loci. If you had one of those with a balanced plug, you could use a hobby grade charger. You can see there's the actual wires that go into the body right there, into the headlights. Again. And then you've got a little, I think it was a 130 brushed motor right there. Our transmission here. And then on the front you've got the steering servo, and there's those big friction shocks. All right, that pretty much covers everything inside of here. I mean, this is a really cool looking little RC car. Kind of every RC enthusiast's dream to have something like this. It's also affordable. It's well under $150. I think it was under $120 actually. And again, really well detailed. I love the lights. It crawls very well. It's a bit top heavy with the high center of gravity and this weight of the shell. It will tend to flip over quite easily when you are trying to crawl. But I really can't complain otherwise. So let's get this little K5 Chevy Blazer out now and do some crawling, so I'll be right back. Okay, so let's get the little K5 Chevy Blazer out here and do a little crawling here. The parking around these pine trees here is a pretty cool place to do some crawling around here. I'm going to start in the lowest rate, and then I'll show you that higher rate as well. If you hear the noise, my kids are here with me. We got a couple RC cars that are bigger. They're going to drive around, and my daughter's also got a motorcycle out here, so there might be quite a bit of noise. So obviously it's pretty slow in the lowest rate, but that's going to be good for crawling. So I can get down here and we can see if we can go over that limb, and we can. It's quiet. So it's not going to make a bunch of noise if you would drive it indoors. It's got good power. Aside from being a bit top heavy, which would make it flip over kind of easy, otherwise it's really great. As you saw, I have the headlights on. Like I said, you have to repair that plug. Headlights look great. It looks just, if you didn't know the scale and you had it maybe in the right setting, you might be able to trick someone into thinking it's an actual real Chevy Blazer from the mid to late 70s. Yeah, since it's kind of small, there are times where it will get stuck on something. But the tires have good grip. Before we go to the higher speed, let's just try to go down this hill here. Now see if we can go back up it. We should be able to. Just turn it here. These pine needles can get quite thick or deep, and that could cause a bit of a problem. They are very slippery when you're trying to walk on them. It's rough. Here we go. And there it goes, no problem. Even on those kind of slippery pine needles. Let's go up to the higher speed. And like I said, if you put it in the middle, it just, let's see if I get in the middle here. You see there, just the transmission shifted, and it's just like in neutral. You can still steer. But here we go, the highest rate all the way to the right. It's a lot faster. Even that little, it's a little LiPo, but it is 2S, and that's giving that little brush motor quite a bit of voltage. So we back it up here. We caught on a. What could happen is you can get one of these pine cones. We'll get underneath it. You see all these pine needles are all over the truck. So that's the only downside of coming here. But it's pretty quick. Now I think if you run it around in this rate, this high rate, but since that battery is so small, I would think you're going to get a pretty short run time. But if you run that low rate, it's just barely moving. That's really ideal for crawling. That I think get a pretty long run time at a low rate, even with that little bitty lipo. Let's just take it down this way and see if we stuck on something. Yeah. You know what it could be? It could be these pine needles again. They're getting wrapped around the axis. So, oh, got a limb stuck in there. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it moves along great. And it just looks awesome having this retro Chevy Blazer look. The second gen Chevy Blazer from, I believe this is a 1976 it's supposed to be. So I mean, they're pretty up to 79 around there. I think even up to 82, they look pretty similar to this. Let's see if we can run it. There's quite a bit of sun glare here. See if we can run it around here. Now it's only half throttle, so even though I'm in the higher rate, it's fully proportional, so you don't have to run it full speed. Let's just run it down this hill and we'll bring it up in a higher rate and hope we don't roll it. And we didn't. Oh, we did. Aside from that though, this thing is awesome. And like I said, it's not going to break the bank. And you know, being the 1/24 scale, things that may not seem that big, it may not be able to go over. But usually, if it can get a wheel up on it, it can usually get over it. This kind of makes you think of those events where you see these vehicles that go up these, it's even steeper than this, those really steep hills. We got a pine. Oh, we had a limb caught underneath it, but it made it out. Let's see, can we get it to, let's go in the low rate. Can we get to go over this limb here? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think in a slower rate like this, you also have the way it's geared for more power than speed. Can we go over it? Oh yeah! I kind of like, you know, that it's quicker than you think in a higher speed. I really like the, you know, just the crawling aspect is what this is most ideal for. Let's go over this root here of the tree. No problem. Let's climb over these needles here, up here. These little, you get really big piles of these pine needles that get stacked up at the base of these trees. These big pine trees. Yeah. Go back up to the higher speed. Let's see before we end the video, because I think you guys have seen quite a bit already. It's not a whole lot. It can get a bit repetitive, but let's try to see if we can climb up this hill here, and we'll try it in the higher rate. So you might need a little momentum, but I'm sure it could do it in the low rate too. No problem. Very cool. I'm just going to ease it down the hill because you might get going too quick, you might roll it. Let's try to go over this. And again, if you're in the highest rate, you can just give it a little bit of throttle and go slow. But I think, like I said, in the low rate, it may have a little bit more power. I don't know. And we kind of tipped it on its side, of course. Again, a lot of pine needles here, caught up in the, wrapped around the axle. daughter's going on a motorcycle there. She loves that thing. Gotta bring her here so she stays out of trouble. She's just going on the streets at home and people end up calling the authorities anytime she's riding down the street because they think she's too young. Let's just drive it right back at me here and then we'll wrap this video up. Oh, it rolled it. Oh, no, we got it. The wheel caught. That was great. It rolled and then the wheel caught these really grippy tires. And it was able to throw it back onto its wheels. All right, guys, I think that pretty much wraps it up. So if you're interested in the FMS Chevy Blazer, of course, it's available all around, but if you buy it directly from Aliexpress, then you can get this thing for, I think it was $120-ish. Considering the detail, the really cool lights, just the whole look of this, and in fact, you can get it in 3 different colors. There's different arrangements of this where you can, like I said, some of them, the top here comes off, and you can put those lights on. Some have the rings to add oil to the shocks. And I think the very first run of these, which you probably can't find that anymore, had some accessories like that you could put onto the top of the car and a big bumper and stuff you could add to some of them. But like I said, this one does not have those. So if you're interested in this, I'll have a purchase link down to AliExpress. It is an affiliate link, but it won't cost you a cent more, but it does help support the channel. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. While you're at it, click the bell while you're notified when you upload a new video. And as always, guys, have an awesome day.
The power of the dark side.